Ripened elderberries, I found out that gives you extremely unpleasant nausea for 15 minutes. So we tried all these things, and I thought, well, I was so hungry and just looked so perfect that I bite into it, and then it cracked like a celery stick. This tiny little green plant, and immediately it's savory. My whole mouth was just savory of these salts and the seaweeds, and then it came kind of hidden and sneaking up on me this totally distinct flavor of coriander or cilantro. So you could imagine in the north of the world on a shitty beach on a cold spring morning that suddenly you're experiencing cilantro or coriander growing natively there. And we had always thought that such flavors belong to Asian or Thai cuisines in a curry, or you go to and have it in a taco in Mexico and a ceviche in Peru, something like that. And suddenly it was there, not looking at all, of course, like coriander, but tasting exactly like it. So we did a few years of that, kind of exploring. Every day it was like a new discovery. We brought in treasures every day, and we're like kids discovering new things. And it was just one of the magical moments where you're starting to see the world in a new way. So, but after a while, of course, we also started. We started to really figure out that these discoveries of ingredients, they didn't come as rapidly as before. Doesn't want to work at all? Okay. And we're starting to not slow down in our process, but we're starting to certainly look for new ways of being inspired. Whereas for years, the total exploration of all these ingredients just boggled our mind constantly. Suddenly, year by year, there isn't the same amount of discovery. So we started thinking about what could we do, and of course, it makes sense that we started to looking into what would be possible with these ingredients. And that's when we really started thinking about the future, not only of our restaurant, but for the momentum that is happening in our region. Which is an unbelievable mind-bog. It's working. You sure about this now?
We're working on it.
Yeah. One of the things one of the initiatives that we did was we've done a symposium, which we call Mad Symposium or Mad Food Camp. There is a website called madfood.co, and it's only .co. And we did the first year last year. It was consisting of two things. One of them was a large-scale festival for food for the general public. So there we were inspired by the Glastonbury Music Festival or the Roskilde Festival or the American Woodstock. And we thought, let's replace rock stars with chefs, and let's serve them weed to eat instead of smoke. And we basically did this outdoors festival in the total celebration of food and the total celebration of deliciousness. So I'll talk a little bit more about the sort of the problems with deliciousness in our part of the world and what it means, to celebrate something like that. And the first year we had also a theme of vegetation. So there was just a mind-boggling array of ingredients and wild foods and scientists talking about soil quality and so on and so on. And there was thousands of Copenhageners coming with their families and learning more and indulging into food for a couple of days. So and we also had in the corner of everything, a little corner, we had a circus tent. Over there. It's working. Yeah. Cool. This is the old business. Yeah. So cool. Well, let's move on to the. This is our kitchen studio. This is the team. There we go. Okay, stay there. The symposium. So in this little corner of the festival, we had a circus tent. can see it here, this one right here. And there we wanted to see if we could shape a forum that was made for chefs and by chefs. So, and in this forum, we wanted to you know, basically just educate ourselves further. See if we could ourselves, the chefs, take our profession to the next level, realizing that the more that we know, the better and more delicious things comes out of it, basically. And you know, in the past 9 years at Noma, I have tapped into knowledge, read books that are so relevant to a great meal, much more than many of the things that you actually learn in a culinary school. I mean, 10 times more. It's also a place where to just meet and be inspired, where we sort of try to gather chefs with the academic world, with science, and see what happens of interesting things. So we're going to do it again this year. Everything is non-profit, by the way. We've done it within a foundation, and it's extremely difficult. So, like, I mean, everybody's searching for money, of course. But this year, on year 2, we have we're going a little bit away from the plant kingdom and stepping more into the person, where we have a theme of appetite. So we're gonna invite 22 speakers to talk about appetite. Not so much the ones that we all experience several times a day, more of an appetite to keep going, and sort of keep yourself inspired and keep yourself trying new things and wanting new things. We're very proud of it, and it's shaping also to be an important factor of our restaurant and what we do. Besides this thing here, we've also initiated another non-profit, which is what we're going to talk about now. And I'm going to play, well, I'm first going to talk about this, the importance of horseradish, because this thing, the Nordic Food Lab, sort of have to have its thanks to horseradish. Has everybody tasted horseradish before? Is there anybody that have never tasted a horseradish, fresh horseradish, from the root? Yeah, there's a few. Several, okay. So, you know, horseradish is one of the staple foods of Scandinavia. And it's something that a lot of people hate, because in parts of Scandinavia you would have horseradish over Brussels sprouts, you know, that had been cooked for 45 minutes, and then horseradish grated over it. And of course, there's no kid in the world that loves a Brussels sprouts cooked for 45 minutes. Did you know that in England, for Christmas Day, on this one day, the special day that everybody's looking forward to, they're going to have, the kids are going to have a present, they actually serve Brussels sprouts for the kids. I thought that was very mean. That's very, very mean. But nevertheless, this was in 2006. We had a dish on that took quite a lot of horseradish. And that was back then, where I also worked a section, which I only stopped doing a few years back. You know, I was on the cold section, and I was every day scraping this horseradish, and I was just totally taken by the difference in them. That some days, you know, they were sweet, other days they were very, very, very acidic, other days they were so spicy you kind of had to tap out and breathe. You couldn't, you know, be in the surroundings of it while you're scraping it. And, you know, some days they were small and gnarly, and other days they were super fat, other days they were long, slim. And each time when you asked a farmer or a supplier, they said, well, you know, I'm sending you horseradish. And nobody could explain why there was such a difference. So I called the Nordic Gene Bank, which is a bank that there is in Sweden, that preserves seeds of preservable quality to their what they think of. And then I said, listen, I have this problem with horseradish, and they said, well, you know, there's 159 types of horseradish in the Scandinavian region. The problem is they're all called horseradish. You know, there's a difference with numbers, and you know, most of them are very similar in flavor, but obviously sometimes you will have varieties that are truly, truly, truly different. And at that time, the reason why I was bothered by it was because as a head chef, you want to sort of create guidelines for the cooks so that you have a quality that is fairly similar. And the guidelines, of course, is recipes. I mean, most chefs will know, or all chefs will know that, of course, a recipe can never be the absolute truth for a certain dish. It is in the end, it is the cook that creates the magic. Because like with the horseradish, it is like this with so many other foods that they change. They truly do change week by week, And you experience it when you go out shopping yourself. One day the asparagus are perfect, delicious, sweet. Next day they're bitter. And obviously then the formula doesn't function. So it is totally the chef and the intuition that drives the end result and the deliciousness of it. So that's why I was so frustrated about it. But that was also the seed for what has today become the Nordic Food Lab. Because we needed this space, this sort of in-between science and cooking. A place that was governed and ruled by deliciousness. Okay? I'm gonna play this clip here. If it wants to start, we are not too sure about this. Let's hope.
You might have to get it off of the
Okay, well, it doesn't matter. It's a clip. Do you know Babette's Feast? You should either read the book or watch the movie. I would say do both. Because in Babette's Feast, it's a story of wartime story of a French woman going to Scandinavia, to what used to be Denmark, today is Norway, and to a very religious community, Protestants. I don't know how many Protestants is sitting here in the room that are actually truly religious Protestants, but we found out that such religious belief have really I think we just skip it. Basically, we just stick to the images. Yeah, I would say so.
We can. Okay. All right. Do you want the? Should we just get it off?
Yeah, just skip it. Yeah. Maybe we should have the students take care of this. It's all right. And the idea of creating a space dedicated and celebrating deliciousness, and also controlled by chefs with the objective of just creating more deliciousness, is a delicate factor in our part of the world. And it actually took us more than a year to realize what the hell it was that we wanted to do with this space. The first year we were totally like infants, they couldn't walk and fell all the time, and we produced nothing basically because we had no real direction. Once we admitted to ourselves that it's okay, it's fair enough to just celebrate that and work towards that. But through religious and historical reasons, keep this stick to there. It is really an issue, and the Babette's Feast will show you why. That sort of indulging into a carnal feast or carnal pleasure was for centuries sinful, as sinful as masturbating. And of course things have changed in many ways. But still, this sort of idea of sitting down and being able to just truly, without any restrictions, just totally enjoy for the deliciousness. I'm not talking about gorging and just overfeeding yourself. Just really enjoying that moment and the pleasure of it is a thing that we are dealing with still in our part of the world. But for us at the Nordic Food Lab, once we sort of started to celebrate it and told ourselves, well, this is what it's about. The people that's going to be involved in this place are going to be involved in creating deliciousness. So that's what we do, and we also told ourselves that this place is not about creating dishes for the restaurant or other restaurants. It's about more or less understanding pillars of cuisine, trying to find new flavors and ingredients that potentially can give a lot of new deliciousness in people's homes and in restaurant kitchens. We also told ourselves that it would be completely, you know, the knowledge would be shared completely. So in the past 6 months, we've really started doing that. You should check out the website, which is called madfoodlab.org, because some of the studies that we've been doing in the past year are starting to enter. And maybe for you as scientists, it's not that interesting. You know, for a cook or a person cooking in their home, there's a lot of useful information there. We also had to assemble a team, of course, with this very, very sparse budget that we have. I don't see any billionaires in here, so I'm not gonna talk about you know, you guys potentially pouring millions into this place, but it is again a non-profit institution. We are situated on a houseboat that is more or less a sinking ship because it's because we fermented so many things in there that the mold just attacked every corner of this ship. And we're hoping the owner would never come and have a look at it. But nevertheless, this is the team. We have Lars as the archangel, messiahs of the space, which is very important. That it is a chef. That is the palate that sort of runs things in this space. Besides that, there is Mark. He's an anthropologist. He just finished top honors from Oxford University, and currently he's setting up a project. We posted the question, why don't we eat insects in the Western world? So, you know, the Nordic Food Lab is not only about edible, palatable things. It's also about studies and creating reports in which we understand the culture of food better. So he's doing that, if we find the money for it. But he's set up a program. And then there's a guy like Ben here. He is a mad Scotsman, or ginger Scotsman, that is basically a cook as well. And he just finished 4 years of gastronomical studies at the university in Bra, which is a slow food university on food. And with him, we're trying to do two new projects. One of them is a masterpiece, of course, about not ethnobiology, but ethnomicrobiology. And one where we want to take the idea of a book about ethnobiology, and instead of having the chemical compounds written down and a picture of it and all the trivia that usually is in the medical use, we want to write about its cooking qualities. So this is the Nordic Food Lab. That's what we want it to be, potentially. And then we also have a scientist who is a professor at sensorical, what do you call that in English?
Sensoric studies.
Sensoric studies at KBL in Copenhagen. He's there part-time. So this was my introduction to this man. And so could you please welcome and give Lars Williams a big hand.
So we made up this this perfect little graph about how we work. So trying to explain why we have anthropologists working in a food lab that center on deliciousness. It's really important for us to attack such a complex issue as eating, cooking, creating conviviality when we eat together from as many different angles as possible. Because, like for the study that Mark is doing, where he's studying the line between edible and inedible, on a greater purpose, that finding that bridge that you have difficulty crossing, or even identifying that bridge where you have difficulty crossing, is the first step for stepping over it. And we are constantly pushing ourselves to that. And that's one of the most difficult things we do, is trying to figure out what haven't we done yet. And so we work with Mark in terms of doing really in-depth social studies about that. Fundamentally, though, as you can see, we revolve around deliciousness, and that's the main focus, and that's how we work. It's really important because if you want to captivate people or compel people in a certain way, you have to make it delicious. If you're talking about sustainability in food, or getting people to eat insects because that's a better source of protein for the world, it doesn't matter at all unless people want to eat it because it's amazing. So that's the way that we are always focused on deliciousness. A lot of our inspiration is from tradition, particularly in Scandinavian traditions of surviving the hard winters where we have a lot of sustenance type of preservation, that's pickling, salting, smoking, different types of curing methods, a lot of drying. So manipulating those techniques, seeing if we can actually force food to change in a certain way vis-a-vis these fermentation techniques is really a great way to stay true to an identity of a region. That's another thing that we like to say. It's important to sort of say about the Nordic Food Lab is that it's a way of approaching food. We don't want to be up here saying that everyone should eat wild ramsons or go pick wood sorrel because that's the only way to eat. This is a way of thinking about food that we're very excited about, but could be transposed to any part of the world. You could make the African Food Lab or the South American Food Lab. I think it's a way that we can really approach food in a novel fashion. We work very closely with scientists, and probably I should be talking a little bit more about that since that's the point of this lecture. But working with scientists is really critical in terms of processing food and trying to attempt it in a novel way. At the symposium, we learned from scientists that if you take a mint leaf, the flavor is completely different if it's julienne or if it's crushed in a mortar and pestle, or you get a completely different flavor if you slap the leaf. So finding out these really amazing techniques or information from scientists is critical if you're going to pursue flavor in new fashion. You can see this is some of the weird stuff that sort of hangs around the boat. Up at the top left, I think, is a great example of a project we worked on that illustrates a lot of the points in the fashion that we like to go really attack our projects with. This is the beginning of a garum. Garum is a type of fish sauce that was from the Roman times. It was one of the most prized commodities they had. And this one we did with actually leftover from a macro dish that René was doing at the restaurant. So we actually we used the waste process. There's a scientific reason for doing that, however, because the majority of enzymatic action you're going to have in the fermentation of the fish is from the stomach. So we're finding a responsible and proper fashion for using this. On the right side, we have a fermented grains, which again we're using the mold on the grains has a high amount of amylase, but also protease, which further breaks down the fish. We discovered this by doing a lot of in-depth research. It's sort of, for a cook, it takes me quite a while to get used to sitting at a computer as much as I do. But it's amazing and saves us a lot of really precious time by really reaching out and calling as many people as we can and explaining to them how often we don't have the things to do what we're doing and trying to get a lot of help. So we're talking to scientists and producers who work with noma, which is the Thai sort of corollary to this. We were able to use our fermented barley and speed up the process to 10 weeks as opposed to a year to 2 years for a very high quality fish sauce. On the bottom was a project that we were really enthusiastic about. We did a very, very in-depth sort of attack into the question of seaweed in Scandinavia. There's 263 varieties, species of seaweed around Danish waters, which is more or less the same sort of variety.